Hi, as a future teacher, I was very drawn to the subject of high school dropouts and trying to help students to avoid having to drop out of high school. I remember actually attending a in-service a few years ago and being reminded of how many students really do drop out, mainly because they possibly don't have support from their family, or somebody loses a job and then they feel it necessary that they have to work also, and it's too hard to go to high school and to work at the same time. I find it very interesting as a future teacher to make sure to help students to avoid having to make a decision to drop out of school. I want to remind my future students that it is very important to stay in school and to be able to support your family when you're older. Also, to make sure that you are understood by your teachers, and maybe to remind students that you want to stay in school and to make a good life for yourself when you're older. The small picture isn't what it really is about when it really sort of is when you're younger, that you're not sure what is going to happen and you don't know who to turn to, or maybe you don't have another person that you can trust. So I looked up on eHow, and you want to make sure that you're talking to your students about making sure that they're making wise choices and not dropping out of school. If they're struggling, to make sure to find you, even if you had them maybe 4 years before when they were, or probably like 6 years before if you're teaching um, fourth grade, and maybe when they're in 10th grade, they're struggling when they're 16 years old because they have some problems at home. But to make sure that they always feel welcome, that they can come back and talk to you as an adult who is trustworthy and really cares about them as a person, not only as their student, but as their past student, but as a person in general. You want to make you as a teacher want to make sure that your students are fully taken care of even after you've had them a while ago. And also, you want to make sure to provide feedback. So, if students that when they're younger, maybe in third grade, have a question about people who are dropping out of high school and why they would do this, and that you have the option to do this, as a teacher, I would want to, like eHow says, eHow.com, to just remind them with positive feedback of where you can go with an education and what you can do and how you can help your own children, and make sure to provide feedback for your when you eventually have children, that it's so important to stay in school. Also, on adcouncil.org, it also says that you want to help as a teacher to help avoid constant absences, because the more that students are absent, the more frustration it becomes with actually staying up with your work. I think even when I would get sick every so often, which didn't happen often when I was in school, it was just so frustrating not to be there to actually find out how we were doing the actual work and what needed to be done. I think I was the most frustrated when I did miss school, and this really does come about for students and they just want to give up. Well, giving up is actually the easy way out, not the actual harder work to figure out what needs to be done. Really, I think a lot of our in society, a lot of our like adcouncil.org says the frustration comes out of actually just giving up. Because then once you've given up, you have to actually go back and figure out what's gone wrong. And you usually end up going back and having to repeat the same stuff over again. It really isn't as hard, at least for me as a student, it wasn't as hard just to maybe go in and ask a teacher for the answer to a question if I didn't understand a worksheet. They were glad to explain the worksheets to me and happy to help me out. It's their job and they really enjoy doing their job. Also, just missing 10% of school would really, really put a student behind. I know 10% out of 100% does not seem like a lot, but it really is when it comes to work, because in school, typically you're doing a new lesson every week, maybe every 3 days with students. So if you're missing part of the lesson and it's what building on maybe in math, it's not going to make sense as much if you're not in the class to understand and to be taught the lesson. Also, in womensforum.com, It says 1 in 5 students lacks the support of an educator or education. This I would want to make it maybe 0 out of 5 students, because that means that maybe then 1 in 5, like it says womensforum.com, are not going to stay in school. More students are dropping out because they feel like this is their only option. As a future teacher, I want to make sure that students know they could come to me as an adult who is responsible and would help them with their struggles. Thank you and have a great day.